So there's a couple of different, from a payment standpoint, first off, there's sort of the rights that you can assign in Citizenserve, right? So, one of them, it's kind of like, do we want to provide access, view only, or full access to fee tracking, access to edit payments? So we kind of have a no access, take payments, take and edit payments, and then the ability to take, edit, and delete payments. Because sometimes you want to have a separation of duties, and have certain people in charge of cashiering. So you can control really the access to fee tracking, and then the access to the payments there. So there's different ways to take payments. One of them is when you're looking at the permit, you can you can take a payment, and you can have different payment types. We're going to always kind of figure out who we got the money from, and you can put the payment in there. So that's one approach, right? Another approach is basically, we're going to show all the payments and when the payments came in. This is also tracked in history. So, we've got a history here of, who took the payment, and that sort of stuff. You can also do this like on a kind of a, let's see, Acme here probably has I'll put myself in here. And I probably owe like $1 million. So you can do it when you're looking at the contact. So if somebody comes in, they say, hey, I want to make a payment, you can, who are you? And, you can just look them up. And I'm looking at a person here, right? And I can click on the payment, and then this allows me to kind of take a payment and apply it to different things, right? And since I have like a million unpaid permits in here from doing demos, you can kind of see that there's quite a bit. But I could, I owe $1.8 million, right? And so I could, I could come in here and say that, I'm paying, the whole amount, right? I don't have to remember that. So you can basically, if I wanted to, I could say, maybe I'm only going to pay for my permits and not my licenses, and then I can put in a payment amount to apply to all of them. There we go. So you can pay for them all at once. Kind of one way to do it. So so that's kind of another, you can make a payment, the person, and then we can also on the portal, you can do that too. So you can, I want to make one payment that, pays for multiple licenses, permits all at once. So
really that would look, so there's two different ways that really we take payments. We take them either over the portal, right, as part of that online component, in which case we got to integrate with a payment processor, which is online. I think we showed like during the application, take the payment, then we work with whoever your payment processor is basically. When they come in over the counter, you're going to take that check, right? In that case, you wrote a check for that $1.8 million, and we spread it across all those. And that check is going to go into a drawer, right, that you have, and then you can print the receipt off at that point for them. If they do it over the portal, it's going to automatically send them a receipt in their email. And if it's a credit card, then instead of a check, when someone comes in, you're going to swipe. You have I'm assuming you have some equipment already. You just swipe that equipment. It's going to mark, you mark it paid as a credit transaction. We can ask for you can ask for the transaction ID. so you can tie it back to a transaction ID in Citizenserve, and take your stuff, give it to them, keep your stuff in the drawer.
What about if someone wanted to pay for something that wasn't a permit or a license? So like if they requested copies, can you add sort of non?
Yeah, that would be, we'd have to use what you're doing. We'd have to have one of those request tracking. We'd have to create a case type for those. It can be a miscellaneous one, or we've had cities that do different things around that, certain, I think something was copies. I'm trying to think of other things we've done around that, but yeah, just have to have some place to hang the payment on.
And then this kind of goes back to business license renewal, but currently, like when we mail out some of our renewals, we'll usually get like 50 checks in the mail every day for a couple of weeks, and then it tapers off. So how do we batch pay multiple different types of items that might come in the mail so that we don't have to open the case, pay it, open the case, pay it? Is there a way to
now, without doing some kind of integration, I mean, somewhere you're going to have to mark, this check was paid by something, even if that's in another system, or somewhere that has to go on. So, I mean, we've done some work with other clients where they have something in place that does that, and then we integrate with that. But somewhere you've got to be able to take that check and apply it to something, somewhere, right? And I mean, it's normally not going to happen in any kind of an automated fashion. Like you have someone write their account, you got to figure out this check is for what. And then,
so you don't have like a cashier screen where you could type in like the business name and it would pull up what they owe.
Yes,
and you
so that's that contact piece. I was just like on the contact piece, it would happen that same way. So you can type, but you have to type something in and apply it to something.
But then can you add like 15 of those on to one sort of payment? And then
15. Okay. So then you get 15 checks for the same business?
No, they'd all be different. Yeah.
So you have to do one at a time, basically, which is the same thing you would do anyway. I mean, you've got to say person or check to business, right?
Currently, we have an
out systems program.
We have a third-party system that integrates, but we're really hoping that we don't have to do that going forward.
So tell me about that system. What is it?
So it's an out systems program that our IT department developed for us. And what we do is we go into that system and we list out 15 different business license numbers and the amount that they owe and a check, how they pay. And then once we hit pay now at the bottom or whatever that button is at the bottom, submit or whatnot, it automatically talks to our CityWorks program and it updates all that information for us.
Okay.
So then we don't manually have to go into every single check and touch it.
Every single license.
Every single license.
So it's basically looking at out systems,
right.
It's going in and saying, when we type in the PL number, the license number,
right.
It says, oh, you owe $50. And so the check's $50, we type in the check number. Then we click add new or add another, and then it pulls up another search screen. We type in a business license number, it pulls in the fee, we type in the check number, and we just add, 25 or 30 of them, however many we have, click pay now. It goes out to out systems, it renews the business license, emails it or prints it if it's a mail, and it adds a payment receipt to that business.
Right.
And so we're not having to physically go in at every single business license and process the payment.
Yeah, and we get so many at once.
Right. So I mean, so still you're going in there and you're typing in a business license number and you're saying, I got this check for this amount. So same thing in Citizenserve, right? So that's all the same. And then all that other piece that's going on behind the scenes, those are different batch processes that we would do. Renew the license when it was paid, send those components out when they're paid. All that is part of the processing. I think we're talking a little bit kind of semantics here in terms of, because you're talking about not just taking the payments, but everything that kind of transpires from taking the payment, right?
Yeah, but we're not like going into each individual business.
But you say you type in a business license
It's
number,
just a list.
Right? Yeah.
It's just one list. It's like one huge receipt.
You basically create a deposit slip.
Yeah.
Doing it by
Right.
business license number.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then it automatically.
we might be able to do that with that report processing. I don't know if we've ever done that or not, but it's very feasible that we could do that.
Yeah. Because when you have that many checks to process,
Mhm.
and you have all the other normal work that it's just
Right.
during that renewal time, you're already so stressed to the max with just your normal job, but now you have all these payments and you got to get these licenses out the door. And so our hope would be most people would just go to the portal and pay online and do it themselves. But we have to know that whatever system we go with is going to be able to do bulk payment in one form or fashion. And, when you're just having to type in a number and a check number, those seconds that you save when you're processing 50 or 100 payments add up to quite a bit.
Yeah.
So just the more streamlined we could make.
So Jim, we should, we probably, I'm sure you guys aren't the first one to come across. I'm not familiar with it. So do you know if we've done a report with processing to actually do the deposits?
I think we could do that almost like a report.
Something like that before.
But yeah.
Because there's an ability to do that for code enforcement cases or anything. So there should be a way to report this out, I would think.
I'm pretty sure we've done that before.
Yeah. And like Redmond's got to be doing something like that, I'm sure.
Yep.
Again, our hope is more and more people will migrate to a portal to do that.
Yeah, we really try to, with the renewal notices and the temporary password and login, you're going to find that, it's almost 2020 and, people are pretty used to banking electronically and all that sort of stuff. They really want to just go log in and make their payment on the portal. It may be upwards of, 85, 90% of the people are just going to go right to the portal to do their payment.
Yeah.
So.
And you can even, depending on your payment processor, they can pay through check on the portal also.
And I hope that's the case. That would be fantastic, but God forbid it's not. And now it takes us 3 times as long to get through our renewal process because we're not able to continue that functionality.
Well, a lot of it is that processing fee too. They have to pay a processing fee to pay online. They don't really have to pay anything to send it through mail.
Right.
They're going to send it.
That's what I'm saying, you can do this.
They're going to send it through mail.
Depending on your payment processor, they can use it.
But I know that's the truth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, and then they'll.
Spend $2 gas, bring it in and hand it to you.
Yeah.
Pay the processing. Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So that's something we would want to get more info on. Make sure. And if you need more details from us, we can.
Yeah, let me see if I can get your answer quick. Jim, can you go on?
Do you have an API?
We don't. We usually develop like a web service or a file upload download capability in the system. So we do that, and I know that we're adding an API that, but I'm not entirely sure. I think it's a pretty open API. It's like uses like some kind of XML, JSON, something or other, and it's pretty cool. But I think what you guys are talking about really is you're just taking, like, you got your 50 checks, you're gonna input them all, right? You're gonna put in the license number, right? And that's all we would need to, import those payments all at once, right? So you could in a spreadsheet, as an example, however you want to put your deposits together, check number, check amount, license number, right? You just input that, and then we can create a process, right, to basically just put that in Citizenserve. So you don't have to. You just make a list of the checks and a list of the amounts, but we'll need the license number, right?
The amount.
So.
Matching to the. So the way that it currently works on our side is when we enter their license number, it pulls back the amount that they owe, so we can match it to the check. So there's a check and balance, so that there's some way for us to verify that they paid the right amount. And where that becomes really important is when we add penalty fees. Many times people won't pay those. And so we usually just end up waiving them because it's not worth the amount of time it takes to get someone to pay an extra $2. But if someone doesn't pay you the right amount, we wouldn't want to just randomly upload a payment without being able to verify that that's what they owed.
Yep.
So that's,
yeah, and this is
that's a bit how we're doing it now.
Yeah, and we've got something similar, like with Redmond. This is kind of they get a, every day there's sort of a payment import, and they kind of, they process the payments, and then sometimes there's an error, and so that's, it's I think it's a similar process. I think that they have a system where they have their financial system, and they take the payments in the financial system, and then we import, we import the payments into Citizenserve, so that we know the license was paid, right? So that's, we can set up a process that does that.
So,
and then, it's just.
Last question.
Still talking the same issue.
Oh, still talking about paying, and he was saying you could just enter the information into a spreadsheet and they could create some sort of upload. And I guess this is like what another customer gets back. But
yeah, it's like a daily report on their, payment import.
Now, so when we get that license number, it pulls back the amount that they owe, so we can match it to the check. So if if they owe us 50 and they pay us 20, then we can call them and say, hey, you didn't pay us enough.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. So basically, Julie said basically we would do that. It would just be a report with processing, but the report would have to be, you have to type in the business license number, and we would return that. You would enter in, the amount paid in the check, right? But if you pulled that back and you got a check for, $250 and it's $500 thing, you're not going to be able to adjust the fees. You're just going to be able to just post the payment. That's right. I mean, the other piece things about adjusting the fees, you're going to have to go back in that license and investigate that, why it's more, why it's less, are the fees wrong?
I think that's what we do now.
It is what we do now. And something else that OutSystems does for us is if we type in that business license and it doesn't show up in the drop down, it means that they've already paid it. So it also checks to see if it's been paid or not before we process it.
And what does it do if it has been paid? Nothing?
It just doesn't show up in the drop down. So then that's our cue to actually physically go into the business to make sure that it's actually been paid.
Do more research.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So you're not typing the business license number in, you're just selecting it from a drop down.
Or as you start typing, it drops.
Well, as we start typing, it pulls in the numbers that are available.
So it's only offering you in the drop down
Yeah.
the
What's
license
pending.
numbers that haven't been paid.
Yeah.
And then if there is a discrepancy in what OutSystems says they owe and what they actually paid, then we just type in a different license number and
move on.
put that check aside and deal with it.
I'm going later.
Yeah.
Okay. And then all the back
Yeah,
end.
we should be able to do that the same way as like when we look at the contractor, you start typing in the contractor and it's just going to pull in
Sure.
one that matches that.
Yeah, and where that's helpful is we have some businesses that have, interestingly enough, like almost the exact same name. And so if you start going, pretty quick with your data entry, you could accidentally pay
The wrong one.
right. So that's why we
business
switched
license
it.
number or
That's why we switched it, I think, to the business license.
When they send a check in, what if they don't, I didn't know what business license
Because they send in their renewal form.
with it.
Like
Like in our case,
10.
so they still may send you a check, but they did the renewal online.
They could,
They
and
could.
we would not want that to show up on whatever
Even if they didn't
search
pay
we were
on,
doing.
I guess we could make them pay online if they do it online. I mean, there's different things that we can do, but.
You just have to be able to reconcile all that at the end of the day.
And the reason that we are sort of hounding you on this is because
No, it's okay.
not only is that our literally the busiest time of year for us, where we're just swamped, but then at the end of the day, when you go to balance 500 checks and you're off, then we're here until we figure out where it is. So it's like
Right.
we try to really put into place these very unique safeguards so that it saves us time.
Yeah.
And in the end, it's worth it because we can
For
easily
sure.
go back and find an error or, you know, make sure that we're not accidentally making a mistake. And yeah, yay IT.
Yay,
But I don't know, I guess I'll say again what I said when you stepped out of the room. Some of the functionality I feel like needs to be provided to us instead of us having to do a third-party
Yeah.
processing, so.
Yeah, so I mean, I confirm with Julia, we can do it, but her response to me was, most of our customers aren't looking for something like that, because when they're doing the renewals online, they're paying online.
Oh, I hope that's the
And
case.
so-
I do, I really do.
Yeah, and she said absolutely, that
It
the
could be.
report with the process, and we could do what you're asking for.
Okay, cool. So the answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we do. I mean, we really, our staff, you know, our support for our business licensing customers. I mean, we are there with you when you're doing your renewals, right? And, you know, so it's, you know, that's just a busy time of year. And so, you know, we are going to do everything we can to sort of get people to go to the portal, right? To do the payments, and, you know, and we can set up processes. It's not really hard to do. I mean, just, you know, like I said, if, you know, you want to just sit down with 100 checks and put in the check number, the amount, and the license number, we'll work out, you know, a reconciliation process and a process to, you know, if people only partially paid, you know, we'll work out a process to deal with all that type of stuff. So.
Cool.
Anything else with cashiering?
I can't think of a thing. I think we covered the
Yeah, it all seems pretty
highlights.
easy.